Oi! Hello! Welcome to day 70 of the 100 Days of Narration Challenge. Day 70! Day 70, day 70, day 70, day 70. Day 70. And since this is the start of a new week, I'm going to do, once again, the Mystery Book Challenge. Mystery Book Challenge number 10. Easier to remember that, considering the fact that there's now 7, 10, maths. I'm not good with maths. Or whatever. Anyway, this week is going to be... I'm going to tell you the theme for this week because it doesn't matter because all these books are going to be different anyway. But this week is going to be autobiography week or biography week or one of those two. Basically, it's books about people, about certain people and their careers and their lives and they're talking about what they've done. Not necessarily by the original. I don't know what the difference between a biography and an autobiography is. I'm assuming one has the actual hand of the person being written about in it, and the other doesn't, completely from an outsider's point of view. But yeah, I'm just going to read from one of these. So that's your first clue. It's biography week, so it's going to be about someone. I should probably explain the rules of Mystery Book Week. Mystery Book Day, Mystery Book Challenge, for people who don't understand. Basically, I am not going to say what book I'm going to be reading from, and you will have to PM me the answer over YouTube, and I will choose a one from the selection of correct answers, and that person will get a 30-second message from me for whatever they should choose to want to have. So yeah, 30 seconds. Usually it's a little bit more than that. I notice some people asking me to read poetry, which may extend up to a minute or more. Hopefully less than a minute, but yeah, I can do that too. So that's what it is. Don't ask me to scream for 30 seconds straight. That would be not so awesome for me because then I wouldn't be able to do anything else for the rest of the day. Also, do private message me the answers. Don't leave a comment on this actual video with your answer because that would be silly. That would be silly. You'd ruin your chances because then everybody would see your answer and go, "Oh, that does look like the right answer. I will take that answer and then I will use it for my own nefarious purposes." And then you'll just decrease your chance of winning. And I'll pick the winner using random.org, which is a random number generator, and yeah, just pick from there. Anyway. Today's book, as I said, is a biography, and I'm just going to flip through to the center of it and see if you can guess whose biography it's for. Oh wait, no, I just forgot the other rule. You actually have to tell me the title of the actual book I'm reading from. Yeah, and also the author, kind of the author. I don't know, maybe. I think the title is more important, but if you found a title, you can probably find out the author as well. So here I go, flipping through the pages, finding something good to read from. Oh, god damn it, started in the middle of a sentence. Okay, that's enough of that. Anyway, let's read this, shall we? Or rather not. This is kind of hard, actually. It's, should I read from here or should I read from a more obvious page? I don't know. And, I'll flip again to something more obvious. I'm not even sure if any of this is obvious, to be honest. It's, well, it's not a rare person who read this is about, but it's not, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have chosen this book to start off with. Maybe I should have chosen an autobiography of someone easier to do. You know what? Let's just start here. and it shows a page which starts in the middle of the sentence again. Oh, God, I'm not good at this. Okay, here we go. Of beauty so that she might lead a happier life. On top of all that, the Talosians explain that centuries earlier the entire surface of their planet was destroyed by nuclear war. That's what forced them to move below ground, and what allowed them to develop such incredible mind powers. However, as a side effect of the war, their race is no longer able to procreate, and that's why they've been taking care of Vina. Their ultimate goal is that one day she'll find a suitable mate and begin spawning heirs who might absorb and keep alive some of the more noble traditions of the once great Talosian society. In the end, April allows the Talosians to provide Vina with illusion that he has indeed fallen in love with her and decided to stay. He is then returned to the Enterprise where he is whisked away, bound for what promises to be a series of weekly adventures. Still, while NBC loved Gene's storyline and agreed to move forward with Star Trek, the network had some reservations in that they were not entirely convinced that the actual production of Gene's project was possible, especially at a farm club studio like Desulu Star Trek. Star Trek, as proposed, represented a huge undertaking, requiring extremely complicated sets, costumes, makeup, and above all else, untried, unproven special effects. Therefore, NBC was quite uneasy about this pairing of a young, rising producer like Roddenberry and an old, declining studio like Desulu. The network's biggest fear was that should Star Trek ever become a series, its unavoidably massive technical, production, and optical demands would make it impossible for Desulu and Roddenberry to churn out episodes fast enough to meet their air dates. As a result, NBC would be watching the production closely, monitoring its cost, and making sure that the Star Trek pilot remained on schedule. Still, as far as Roddenberry was concerned, Star Trek had been green-lighted, and that was all that mattered. Gene had succeeded in nurturing his outer space baby from proposal through the story phase, and he was now... Let's try that again. That didn't sound right. Gene had succeeded in nurturing his outer space baby from proposal through the story proposal through the story phase, and he was now about to watch it blossom into a full-grown television pilot. Star Trek was still a long, long way away from making it to the airwaves, but for now, Roddenberry could savor a victory, at least for a little while. Let's try that one again. But for now, Roddenberry could savor a victory, at least for now, at least for a little while. Just after NBC's decision, Roddenberry got to work writing the script for Star Trek's pilot. Once more, Gene cranked up his creative energies. Once more, the sounds of furious typing, furious swearing, and furious paper crumpling filled Gene's office from dawn until dark until dawn. Smoke billowed from his office, as if he were electing a pope, and draft after draft his fingers flew, writing, refining, and working to ensure that his script straddled the fine line between creativity and believability. Yikes. That is a roller coaster of a sentence. Let's try that whole sentence again. Smoke billowed from his office as if he were electing a pope. And draft after draft his fingers flew, writing, refining, and working to ensure that his script straddled the fine line between creativity and believability. That's it. That's the problem. Creativity and believability. They look like they should roll into each other, but they kind of don't. Creativity and believability. Creativity and believability. I guess that does sort of work. Towards this end, Roddenberry began corresponding with a number of scientific professionals, mainly aeronautic engineers, technical craftsmen, scientists, and physicists. He'd allow these guys to read his early drafts of The Cage, and then solicit their advice as to how he might create a more scientifically accurate, wholly believable view of the future and intergalactic travel. Far and away the most important of these contributors was an unassuming physicist from Rand Laboratories named Harvey P. Lin. His correspondences with Roddenberry were lengthy and specific, and cleared up the scientific inconsistencies found within Gene's script. For example, having read an early rough Jeez. Okay. Let's try slowing things down a bit because I'm having trouble keeping up this pace for some reason. For example, having read an early rough draft of The Cage, Lin offered specific technical advice as to how the Enterprise's shuttlecraft should launch, return, and dock at the mothership. He also argued with Roddenberry over interstellar terminology, insisting that Gene change a line of dialogue wherein April sets the Enterprise's course towards a specific quadrant of space. Quadrant of space. Ow. Again, reading from books, so my shoulders are getting tired. Insisting that Gene change a line of dialogue wherein April sets the Enterprise's course towards a specific quadrant of space. Lin's argument was that since a quadrant inherently refers to a fourth of something, because the universe has no defining boundaries, the reference was simply meaningless. Lin politely requested that the read... I can't read today. I'm just substituting words where they aren't those words at all. It's like my brain's going, nope, not gonna read today. Just gonna keep creating new words that aren't there. Lin politely requested that the word region be substituted. Along the same lines, he'd asked Gene to do things like eliminate the word static from a communications officer's dialogue, insisting that no such interference was possible in outer space. And he'd get downright angry over the fact that the real-life heavenly bodies mentioned in Gene's script were chosen not because of any logical spatial relationship or hypothetical course set for the Enterprise, but simply because they'd sound vaguely familiar to viewers. As a result, he'd argued that if any competent astronomer were to sit down and chart the course of the Enterprise, he'd find it zigzagging wildly about the cosmos. I'm really sorry about today. I don't know what is wrong with me. These are not hard words to say or hard sequences of words to say. It's just, yeah. Maybe it's because I'm reading this in low light. I should probably... Well, that helped about, 1%. It's a little bit brighter now. Lin also noted that Gene's script for The Cage referred to Talos 4 as having gravity 1.3 of Earth, about 1/3 stronger than that of Earth. This, he correctly pointed out, made the Telosians' oversized heads an anatomical impossibility, as a gravity greater than Earth's would, over time, significantly shrink and flatten the inhabitants' heads. This made the Telosians' large heads unexplainable, and as a result, at least to someone as technically minded as Mr. Lind, this made the Telosians' heads It's like I'm back in day one again. This made the Telosians' large heads unexplainable, and as a result, at least to someone as technically minded as Mr. Lin, unbelievable. He suggested that making the this is a really bad day. He suggested that making the gravity level less than Earth's would clear up this problem quite easily. As a last example of how Roddenberry harnessed Mr. Lin's specific brand of genius, although dozens more exist, it was Mr. Lin who quite correctly took umbrage at the notion of the Enterprise crew running around with laser guns. He is the man who suggested that Roddenberry rethink the name and replace it with one a little bit less prone to criticism from scientific types who'd soon realize that a laser probably couldn't blow up a rock or knock over a tree. Star Trek's lasers became phasers shortly thereafter. Roddenberry's academic brain trust certainly assisted him in keeping his script believable and grounded within the basic principles of science. However, even with this valued assistance, Gene still found himself plugging away at his teleplay for The Cage, rewriting the same scenes time and again. It wasn't that his script wasn't good. In fact, it was terrific. Instead, these revisions were due to the fact that no matter how often Gene rewrote The Cage, he'd always come away feeling like he could make it a little bit better. Gene's personal standards of excellence were holding him prisoner at his own desk. This was obviously the most important script that Gene had ever written, and with so much riding on it, he simply couldn't allow himself to stop polishing. Obsessing over his characters' names, he had Captain April become Captain Winter, then Captain Christopher Pike. Finally, as the time constraints of a preliminary shooting schedule began to demand its completion, The Cage was nearing a form that Gene could live with. Throughout this period of frenzied script revision, Gene was also beginning to deal with many of the creative people and technicians who would ultimately turn his dream so satisfyingly into reality. One of the first to arrive was a man named Franz Bachelin. I don't know. Bachelin? Oh, dear Lord, I don't know. Bachelin. I'm going to say Bachelin. One of Desulu's most experienced in-house art directors. Bachelin would be responsible for the overall look of Star Trek's series pilot and would also serve as Matt Jeffries' boss. However, within a relatively short period of time, it would become clear that Jeffries, who was officially credited as assistant art director, would be doing the lion's share of the actual work. Bachelin, whose designs were apparently more beautiful than buildable, that's an awkward word, than beautiful than buildable, generally worked in watercolors, coming up with the broad strokes, bad pun intended, in regard to the interiors of the Enterprise. Once Bachelin's basic designs had met with Roddenberry's approval, it was up to Jeffries to translate these ideas into the reality offered by a limited budget and a rather rundown television studio. Jeffries explains, I had to come up with the construction drawings to actually build these sets, and my problem was in trying to figure out exactly. Oh, God. I had to come up with the construction drawings to actually build these sets, and my problem was in trying to figure out just what the hell Bachelin had done such a pretty painting about. I mean, in terms of construction and in terms of practicality, his paintings just didn't work. The construction crew would have gone out of their minds trying to build what he'd painted. At any rate, as I said, I was a nuts and bolts guy. So I took his basic paintings and used them in creating all of my ship's specific design work. I'm talking mainly the bridge, the layout, the relationships between the Enterprise crew. The relationships between Enterprise crew member positions, the original instrumentation, all of this stuff required a massive amount of work. Keep in mind that Jeffries was now developing all of the Enterprise exteriors, interiors, and construction elements, and that all of his sketches had to take into account not only the stylistic considerations, but also budgetary, scheduling, and construction constraints. Roddenberry and Desulu had both made it crystal clear that no starship set was going to be approved until it was functional, sturdy, realistic, and cost-effective. Still, Jeffries was used to working within these restrictive guidelines, That was all part of his job. However, on this particular project, his creative ideas not only had to be approved by Gene, who, as producer, had final creative control, but also had to survive Gene's battery of technical advisors, each of whom could come up with any number of memos regarding the inherent feasibility and practicality of Jeffrey's sketches. And we will stop there, I think. All right, so that was actually a very bad place to do this because, yeah, you might be thinking this is an autobiography of a certain person because that was all it was talking about, but it's actually about another completely different person. And damn it, I screwed up because this biography does go into like the history of what you just heard, Star Trek, but it's not actually about Star Trek. Or the person you just heard me reading about. Damn it! Okay. We might not have a winner this week. Well, if we don't have a winner this week for the Mystery Book Challenge, I can always just roll over the prize onto the next week. But yeah. So that was wow, I had a brain fart there. Day 70 of the 100 Days of Narration Challenge, and that was Mystery Book Challenge number 10. If you can guess what the book is, PM me over YouTube, or however you can get into contact with me. Don't comment on the video itself with your answer, because that's not a great way to do it, and I will pick the winner from whoever sends me the correct answer. I hope somebody will send me the correct answer. I apologize for choosing such a bad area to read from, bad section of the book to read from, but yeah, hopefully someone can still glean something out of that. All right, thank you. Hey, you seem like a cool, wonderful, and or awesome individual with impeccable taste in voice actors. So why not follow me on Facebook or Twitter? You can keep up with the latest projects I'm in, or that my friends are in, or that you could be in, because I occasionally post links to open editions to various projects that require voice acting out there, or that nobody's in, but they're interesting projects nonetheless that you may also find interesting. Also, lots of random thoughts about whatever's on my mind at that particular moment. Usually it's about food or video games, or foodie video games. Anyway, you can follow me on Facebook at OmadonVA or Twitter at Omadon. Hope to see you there.